Have you ever had something happen in your life and ask yourself, why me? Something that feels completely out of your control, even though you didn't do anything to cause it. It could be good, it could be bad. Sometimes we do things right, and we still don't achieve what we've earned. Some good people have terrible lives. As people, we love to believe we have control. Some more than others. When we don't have control over our lives, our mental state declines. And that is a totally normal part of being a human. But what I've come to understand through life experience and research is that people misunderstand what free will is, and we actually have very little, if any. Something I love to say is life is like a roadmap, and there are pit stops along the way of our journey. We get to choose the route, we get to choose which direction we go, but we will hit those pit stops. Especially after the practice I've had recently with this new modality I'm working with, this has become very clear. If you don't know me, I'm Alice Autumn Strange. I'm an expert in assisting others in overcoming mental illness through spirituality, energy work, and psychology. Through my own experiences, I developed a method to overcome my mental illness, ultimately discovering full recovery and a way to help others through similar things. So let's talk about free will. What actually is free will? And there's a big misunderstanding about what free will actually is. As spiritual beings, we know that there are things like soul contracts, past lives, karma, and combined with the understanding of free will versus free choice, we actually have way less free will than we would like to believe. So we're going to walk through philosophy, karma, soul contracts, and I just can't wait to share this new modality with you guys that I've been working on that really helps us to take back our free will. It's really been revolutionary to my clients, and I'll give a lucky few of you a chance at a special opportunity to try this out, but let's go ahead and focus. Philosophy, free will versus free choice. In the Torah, it talks about free will, but this is a mistranslation because actually it's not free will, it is freedom of choice. So a lot of people have held on to this mistranslation, but let's break it down. Free will is a person's ability to determine their own will fully free of any outside influences. Freedom of choice is a person's ability to choose between multiple courses of action in accordance with their will, independent of external factors, whatever their will is, influenced or not. So why is there actually not as much free will as we think there is? Just considering the philosophical pieces, our mind and mood are based on our biology and our state of our brain. Now, we know there's more than a brain in the picture. We know that we are far more than just a brain and a body, but we'll add more to the picture in a minute. Let's just build up to that. We can work really hard to make choices outside of our biology, but this is still not fully free of influence, such as we would have in free will. And our environment heavily influences our biology. Biology begins in utero. There's genetics, but there's also the way we're raised, our education, our nutrition, every piece of our lives. And since the brain is influenced and the brain influences us, we have the ability to make choices, which is freedom of choice, but we are not the only thing controlling and influencing our choices, which would be free will. Yes, we can change our biology. We can make those choices. We can change our environment. But the essence of us is shaped. But really, this goes even deeper. We can be controlled by ourselves in ways that we don't even realize. Imagine every time you've ever had a reaction, just instinctually, without stopping, reflecting, and choosing. That's being controlled by your own impulses. So here's some examples. Maybe you get insulted by someone and you get really angry. You don't want to be angry, but you get angry. Or you have a relationship and it ends, and then you end up feeling bad about yourself. Or you're on a diet and then you still decide to break your diet and eat a cookie. Any uncontrolled emotion or impulse without a conscious choice is us being controlled by ourselves. And yes, we can gain control by a lot of practice and self-control and choosing our emotions, but even then we are still influenced by something outside of ourselves. And just because we don't necessarily have all the free will we would like, we do still have freedom of choice. Therefore, we are responsible for those choices. So thinking of the example of someone was raised in a hostile environment and then they go on to be a hostile parent. This person was influenced by their upbringing, but they still have to deal with those consequences and make up for what they did. They didn't have free will necessarily, but they did have a free choice, so that's still on them. So I am not excusing poor behavior. We're not meant to act in ways that harm others. If a person harms somebody and they do so because they were harmed, they are both a victim and a perpetrator, and that's still not okay. Both can be true at the same time. So now let's pull fate and destiny into the picture. Everyone has a different definition of fate and destiny. Some people use them interchangeably, but they are different. Essentially, fate and destiny are both predetermined things. Some prefer to believe destiny is made by choices and fate is out of our control, and that they can avoid fate by following their destiny. I think this is a really limited point of view. It's really pulling out those insecurities, those fears of not wanting to lose control. So, according to philosophy, destiny are events that follow a set purpose or plan. They work toward our purpose on this earth. And fate are events that happen in our life that are predetermined. The only difference is destiny is related to purpose and fate is just events in our life in general. Even looking at Greek and Roman tradition, the three fates would spin the threads of destiny around the spindle of a person's life. This illustrates that fate influences destiny, which applies to our lives. A very interesting quote I found from the University of Notre Dame. There's a PDF, I'll link it in the description, but here's a quote from this PDF. Freedom of will is one of those things which, while it certainly seems real, can seem harder and harder to understand the closer we look. To many philosophers, it has seemed that once we accept certain features of the world, we can see that they leave no room for freedom of will. Really boiled down and condensed, there are three schools of thought, three viewpoints on freedom in philosophy: Determinism, Compatibilism, and Libertarianism. Libertarianism is when we have total free will and we are unaffected by any external factors. But as we mentioned before, considering our environment, our biology, all of these things affect us. Even consider, how do you act around different people or different places? Are you really your full self all the time? This argument, libertarianism, also argues that prior things in life do not have any effect on us. But if we look at the principle of causation, every event must have a cause, such as a plant grows because it was watered, or a tree falls because of gust of wind. We all choose things due to prior life events. In determinism, which is the opposite, we are completely controlled by external factors. We have no freedom. The factors could be environmental, people, biology, and one common thought experiment with this is if we were put into a different body. This argument says that we would make the same choices that that person does. I feel like this is a pretty compelling argument. Thinking about biology and life circumstances, if your soul was born into a different body, would you act different? And also determinism is very focused on cause and effect, similar to karma. Our choices today lead to something tomorrow, and so on, etc., forever. And then there's compatibilism, which believes that determinism and libertarianism are compatible. As long as we are free from outer influences, we are free, according to this belief. So, say if I were to go to bed early, but no one was making me, I could choose to do that. But then some would argue that I was a slave to that desire, not freely acting. I was a slave to the fact that I was tired. There are so many different types and subsects of all of these schools of thought, but one that I found very interesting is predeterminism, which is determinism, meaning things are determined outside of ourselves and we have no freedom, but predeterminism is that belief that those things are all planned ahead of time. So that planner could be source, spirit, the universe, God, or even ourselves. With soul contracts, it's us and some other forces, some other souls that we're incarnating with. So if you consider that soul contracts are made by our higher selves and nothing else, then maybe that would be free will, but I feel like there's a lot more to the picture than that. So, on the subject of soul contracts, a soul contract is an agreement that your soul makes before you incarnate on Earth. This could include the family you incarnate with, people you meet, events, mindsets, and many, many lessons that we'll go through, all for the purpose of evolution of the soul. The soul contract is what maps out those pit stops on our journey of life. We can take whatever path we choose to get there, but we will get there. And if we don't reach a destination, we'll have to do that in the next life, which has to do with karma. So then, what is karma? Karma is an Indian philosophy having to do with cause and effect. Good actions lead to good and bad to bad. Some say it's more about finding our path and our purpose. And karma is so layered, so complex. There's also many different types of beliefs around karma, but generally there are about 12 laws involved. I'll focus on the ones that apply to this concept just for the matter of being succinct. One of them being cause and effect, and everything is energy. So everything is energy. The energy you create is what comes back to you. There's also an element of having to take action to get what you want. You can't just wish and wait for things to happen. You also have to release things that aren't serving you so that new things can come in. There's also an element of the past, present, and future are all connected and influenced by each other. There's also a factor of history will repeat itself until you learn from the experiences and take action to break the cycle. Change happens when we act. There's also the belief that we have to take consistent action. One good day is not going to lead to the life that you want, your best life. And so our souls choose our soul contract. We write them out, we plan them, we sign them, but they are confined by the laws of karma. We are limitless beings having a human experience, but we are limited in this human experience by biology and environment. But when we tap into our limitless side, we can make huge changes to our subconscious pretty quickly. I'll, again, talk about this more at the end. Coming back to concrete examples. Think of times where in your life or in people you know, spirit or whatever force you believe in takes things away or ends something without any choice on your part. Sometimes we even have a feeling or a knowing or a message to do something and we don't. And then it's forced on us. Personally, I've had the message before to rest, and I don't, and I push, and then I fall when I'm exercising and twist my ankle, and then I have to rest. I do not have a choice. There's also situations where we are told that we are supposed to leave a job from our source, universe, creator, and then we don't, and then we lose the job. Or sometimes you're told to cut a person off, end a relationship, end a friendship, and you don't. And then suddenly that person just cuts you off. These are all very average, everyday examples of why we have way less free will than we like to believe. So why is it we do believe we have free will? I believe we cling to free will because we are afraid. We want control. Some people want to go against restrictive upbringings, and it's honestly scary to think that we have little control. It's our lives, and we're living them. But often when the idea of free will meets with toxic positivity, people are blamed for awful things happening. Sometimes things just happen. It's written in the soul contracts, it's fate, it's destiny, it's karma. Some lessons we just have to learn. This could be financial or interpersonal relationships or self-love or even housing. Sometimes things aren't anyone's fault, it's just written in our contracts. So please be kind to yourself. We can make choices to shape our future, but there are many things that are predetermined. There are pit stops on our roadmap that we can try to circumvent, and we will still end up there. It just breaks my heart to see people in online spiritual spaces told that horrible traumas, horrible things that happen to them are somehow their fault, somehow because of their mindset, somehow something they brought on themselves. And some things aren't. Some things are. But some things aren't. So what do you do if it's in your contract? So many people are talking about New Earth. It's everywhere. It's been going on almost for a year now that I can remember. And there's a lot involved in this concept and this shift that we're going through. But to be succinct, we as a planet, as a collective, are shifting to a higher dimension. We're moving from 3D to 5D. And now it is far more possible than ever to rewrite our soul contracts. As the frequency of the planet increases, we can more easily change things at a high frequency to affect our physical bodies. Since we're now 5D rather than 3D, the shift is less extreme. And while life can be hard, we are not meant to suffer. We do have free choice, and we can use that choice to affect our free will. There's a little bit of information on rewriting soul contracts online, but often they come with big warnings on them, and they really should. We chose the contracts that we signed at some point for a reason, and if we're changing them carelessly, it can really affect karma and our future lives and other things. This is why I've developed a modality of rewriting soul contracts in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records are a sacred, protected place. Nothing can enter the records to do harm, and no harm can be done in the records. So utilizing the Akashic Records to rewrite a soul contract is a way to ensure that you do not mess anything up in your life. This has been a beautiful and transformative modality for my clients. It's always a moving experience for them and myself. And I have only a few more sessions to do before I've reached the number where I will be charging full price for them. And so if you'd like to work with me to rewrite your contracts in a safe way at a highly reduced cost, click the link in the description of wherever you are watching. I'm only taking 7 more clients before charging full price, and it's first come, first serve. So just click the link, send me an email with your availability to schedule with me. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. You can email me for that, or there will also be a link in the description with all of the information. So go ahead, send that email. If you like content about spirituality, science, the occult, and psychology, subscribe to my channel, follow me on any of my socials. I'll see you next time around, and remember, you don't have to do it alone.